And still, when I got 2 strikes, I would revert back to slapping.
So how often did you hit?
I remember I hit, I think, 1 home run in high school, and it was my senior year, one of my last games. Probably my whole high school career, I stood in and hit like 15 times. I remember my stepdad always telling me, Pookie, get in the box, stand there, hit.
What's he call you?
And I was like, no, 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 no. He's like, do it, do it. And I just never did it because it was something I was always comfortable with.
All right, so we've actually got some high school Celeste. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here's high school Celeste.
Got a girl.
So that's one video. Let me show you this other one because you can see a little bit better. This is kind of what she's talking about. So as you can see, classic. I kind of chop the ball into the ground here. Shortstop stays back, plays back, and waits on the ball. No chance to throw out. So what is that now?
I was so far out of the box.
Oh yeah, they didn't call him. So.
Your foot had to barely touch the white. Now if any of it's out.
Yeah, they ain't gonna call that anymore. So now you did that. That's what you were as a slapper in high school. Now talk about kind of your first fall going into UTSA.
My first fall in high school, maybe like the last week of summer ball was when I really started to hit more because I kind of had to get real with myself. Like I don't run a 2-4 to first base, so I knew that at the D1 level, when the defensive players are better than high school and select, that I would have to change it up a little bit. So I wanted to be a triple threat, and I wanted to hit power slap and regular slap. I actually still kind of had the same mindset with 2 strikes, maybe I'll swing away or I'll power slap. But most of the time, I was kind of placing. I practiced a little more on placing during the fall. I swung away a little more. Our hitting coach actually got fired that year, so we didn't really have a hitting coach a lot. First year of college, we had one coach, and she was really spread thin between all 22 of us girls. So I kind of just did my own thing. If anybody watched Bailey Baldwin's, she was somebody I kind of got under her wing, and I just was like, okay, maybe if I watch her hit a little bit, maybe I can hit a little bit, and just kind of put it together.
Makes sense. All right, so we've actually got some freshman year Celeste. So this is your first hit, you told me, in college. So as you can see, just classic, run through the box and kind of poke at it. I'm guessing this landed in front of the left fielder?
Yeah.
Yeah, landed in front of the left fielder. So how was your first fall?
The first fall, I was good. I was when I was quote unquote triple threat, I was pretty successful. Just because as your freshman year in college, they don't know what's coming. So I did this little mind game, and where I would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna swing away this first strike, and then they'd skip back, and then I'd bunt or something. So I didn't really have the hitting skill yet, so I just used the mind game and my height to the best of my ability. Because when they saw how kind of big I was, they were like, oh yeah, she can hit, kind of, but no, I couldn't.
All right, so we've actually got some video here from the spring. So here's some spring stuff where, let's see, where is it? Here we go. So this is at Southern Miss. Here are 2 swings she had. The first one, she hit a double down the left field line.
Come on.
So if you can kind of see, she stands in and hits these, it's kind of stiff, a little bit of a toe tap type move, but the upper body is really stiff, which makes sense when it comes from slapping. But, the barrel kind of works from behind, there's some good things going on there, and she's really athletic, so gives her a chance to hit a little bit, find a few barrels. So this is a double against Southern Miss. Here's a ball. She says this was fair. They said it was foul.
It was for sure fair. I know you. If you pause it, you can see the ball.
Man, you can't see this ball.
Yes, you can. But do you see it?
No, I see clouds.
No, it's the ball
All
right.
So if you're just kind of looking at it, it's again kind of stiff, real static, real set positions, kind of a toe tap deal, but the barrel's working from behind. Like there's some good stuff going on here, obviously. That's gonna give her a chance to hit, but just not really a repeatable pattern to really dig in and be able to just hit every single time. So Celeste, as a freshman, 371, 5, 3 triples, and 3 homers. So actually, it's really good as a freshman. So Celeste, and as you're talking, I'll show this. Talk a little bit about that year.
Like I said earlier, that year was just a lot of mind game for me. I knew I could hit, but I didn't have the confidence about hitting, nor did I have like the quote unquote hitting coaches throughout my whole life. I knew I had to like space it out. Honestly, lots of times I got pretty lucky. Because I don't know, I was a completely different player half the time. I don't even remember how I swung like that. I actually was hitting the other day and I tried to swing like that and it didn't work.
Timing's probably all jacked up.
It was awful. But I played a lot of mind games like, yeah, I'm tall. Am I going to hit or swing away, fake it? Lots of more on the ground, lots of more stealing bases, less like raking, less like dominate mentality in the box.
So as I just showed that, and I'll show it again so I can talk about it. So Celeste won this award here. I don't even know if Hero Sports is a thing anymore, but regardless, best freshman Division I softball, and actually made Conference USA all second team, and freshman, and also the conference is all freshman team. So really successful as a freshman. So Celeste, talk a little bit about, obviously you won those awards, pretty good player in your first year, pretty confident. Talk about the fall of your sophomore. How did the fall kind of translate as a sophomore?
Oh, you weren't there yet.
No, I wasn't there yet.
So this was kind of the same thing. We had I was on a high. I was like, all right, whatever. We had a volunteer coach. I'm not going to talk about him, but we had a volunteer coach. And that was hard. But I kind of just tried to stick with the same thing that I did, like the same mentality I did, because I figured that if I was the same player my sophomore year, I would be successful my freshman year. As successful as I was my freshman year, but little did I know, like scouts come out, things change, all this stuff. But I really just tried to stay the same, try to train the same. My confidence was sky high. So that was really it for the fall.
What's so funny?
Nothing.
So what happened? So talk a little bit about, I guess, January? Would that be January of your sophomore year?
Yeah, last week of January, beginning of February. You think I would know?
I have selective memory when it comes to these things.
Yeah. Okay, well then you showed up, right? Large man, doesn't smile, comes in, tries to intimidate you, and I'm like, all right, this is our new hitting coach, this guy. Okay.
So if you were on the call that I did with Bailey, you understand both of them were in the same boat. So first couple days the first day I wasn't actually allowed to work. I was just there observing practice. And they didn't hit in the same group. But so Bailey hit in the group before Celeste. And so Bailey hits, and then Celeste groups hits, and she's slapping, but she's hitting these balls like really, really hard. And so she comes over between rounds and I ask her, I says, hey, do you stand in the hit? And she's like, yeah, it's not real good though. I was like, well, that's okay. Like, do you mind taking some swings so that I could see it? She's like, yeah, I'll take some swings. So she proceeds to take some swings, and it did. She's fouling some balls off the side, but she does proceed to hit a couple balls. If you see in our field, hit a couple balls off the dorm room behind center field. And so afterwards, I'm like, she says I said this differently. I still stick to my story. She comes over and I said, if you could hit the ball like that consistently, why would you ever purposely like try to chop the ball on the ground? So at this point, I am not even allowed to officially work, but I've told my first best player, position player, that she's going to hit 20 homers. And so she's kind of looking at me sideways because she doesn't know me. And then I've told someone who's just made all conference second team and freshman All-American that you're basically wasting your talent by chopping the ball on the ground. And so Celeste looks over at Cheatham and she's like, Cheatham, where'd you get him from? Send him back. And she's walking down the third base line. Bailey kind of looks at me and she's like, you ain't gonna get nowhere with that one. I'm like, I ain't worried about it. Like, she gonna be okay.
No, he told me, first thing he said to me was, you ain't never gonna slap again. I was like, no, I'm not listening to you.
You remember the first couple days we were in the cage and you fact checked me on the hand pivot stuff? And you were over there and you were like, I don't understand why someone hasn't told me, why I've been playing and nobody's told me I was doing stuff wrong. And you were just sitting there, you're like, I just don't understand. Like, I've been good all the time. And now, like, all my stuff, I've been doing it wrong. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I just wouldn't do it that way if I were you. You were so flustered.
I was flustered for 2 years.
So let's go on. So we've got some sophomore year stuff. So I'm going to show you a couple of clips from sophomore year and show you what we're looking at. So here's a BP clip from as a sophomore. So let's talk about just a little bit what's going on. So as you can see, like with the lower half, there's actually some good things going on. The back hip's getting loaded. When the front foot lands, you see how the knees are bowed apart. So there's some good things going on here. But if you also can see, if you look at the lead arm, how far back it's getting stretched. And it's really not even getting stretched. It's more so she's like pulling with this lead arm. So it's really, really straight trying to get turned into contact, which is going to affect ability to adjust, ability to cover different areas of the zone. So that was one of the big things that was going to hinder her if we were going to go about the process trying to turn this into a swing. So let's go on to – so here's a grand slam she hit against Prairie View really early in the year. Oh, grand slam in center field. Big thing I want you to see here, though, is you kind of see, like, the pattern doesn't even look the same. But if you look at the arms, so as she's kind of getting to the foot strike, you see kind of the arms are plunging down towards the ball before the hand pivot ever starts to happen. So this ball's down in the zone. So arm plunge is not really affected. Like, I'm still going to be able to cover the ball that's down in the zone. The issues is covering the ball that's up in the strike zone, even not even up, but middle portion, mid-thigh to top of the strike zone. Really tough time covering that pitch, which is one of the main reasons why she wasn't comfortable with standing in and hitting. But this is the big thing that I want you to see from that early on. Last one, I'm going to show you here from sophomore year. These are two swings, one against HBU, one against FIU. She actually hits the ball out. But as you can see, like from a pattern standpoint, I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot going on. I mean, with the the leg lift and the upper body's kind of all over the place. It's just not very consistent. It's not very clean. It's really, really tough to repeat this. And so those were kind of the things that were holding her back when it comes to building a swing pattern. So as a sophomore, she goes, The sophomore, what was it? We had 299, 6 doubles, a triple, 5 homers. Obviously a down year from what she was previously. So Celeste, talk about your sophomore year a little bit.
I was full of frustration. It seemed like every week we were changing something. Like I was gonna do this to try to see if it would help for me. I was gonna do this week, this week. Meanwhile, he came and showed up 2 weeks before we started season. So I was still like, I'm gonna slap and I'm gonna hit. I just can't give up slapping. It's why I've been good, pretty much. So after all of this, at the end of my sophomore season, I was pretty much went from a high to like a low. Like I was hitting 299. I was a slapper, so slappers have a mindset that hitting 350, 450, and above is what you're supposed to do. So that was like a low for me. But it just seemed like I had hit rock bottom right there. But really, a lot of frustration had built up during that year. Salters wasn't my friend until probably the end. I remember him telling me that if I didn't do what I was supposed to, he was going to run me and run me and run me.
I don't remember that now.
Yes,
Where did that come from?
that. You scared me.
I said I was going to run you? I don't
Yes.
remember that. No.
You promised no crosses count. J-Wall was on this side, Cheatham was on this side, and then you were doing it, and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to because I didn't believe in it. And you were like, you keep giving me attitude, you keep doing it, I'm going to run you.
I remember that part. Like, I remember saying something about you giving me attitude, but I don't remember telling I was going to run you. Like, I'm not a punishment runner type.
You said it. You were sick of me. But I wasn't that. It wasn't that I was not listening. It's that I had a whole different lifestyle, a whole different way of doing things. And he just came in, didn't trust the man, didn't know the man, didn't even know his middle name, still don't. And I was supposed to do what he said. So that was kind of hard for me. No trust behind anything yet until later on.
So we're gonna move on. So the next step we're gonna go to as a junior. And this is where we're gonna start getting to a little bit more of the video. We'll start with junior in the fall, and we'll just show, and I'm gonna show a little bit of some inter squad stuff. So this is junior year in the fall. So again, we're slapping here, you know, nothing really to say too much. Run through the box. The hand pivot point actually is not that bad here. From a slapping standpoint, you can kind of see how the barrel's working a little bit on this clip here. Show you another. Here's another slap from the fall. So again, same thing. Hand pivot point, as you can see, it's not that bad. Pretty good for slapping. Show you one from behind.
And just I see you swinging.
I'm happy. So you can actually see kind of right center where this ball lands. He's able to hit this ball at the fence. As you can see, like, there's some good actions going on here. This ball is elevated, so it gives her a chance to really stay behind it. But there's some good things that are going on there. I'll show you a swing from the fall. This is the one that I want. I want this one. So at this point, like, the loading pattern had kind of cleaned up a little bit. So it's not, it's not what you saw as sophomore where the barrel and stuff is just flying all over the place. Like, it's a lot cleaner. And so you can see a little bit of things starting to happen a little bit with the arms, starting to clean up some. Lead arm still really straight, which we'll get to that a little bit later. But some things as far as being able to time are starting to clean or getting better or better than they were early on. Here's one more I'll show you of swing from the fall.
Oh, yes!
This ball is hit really well. But what I want you to be able to see is even though it is hit very, very well, this swing's working right. Like this is, I mean, that's right. That's right from the time her foot almost hits the ground. Everything's going right, which comes from the lead arm being really straight, not really understanding how to get under the shoulders and all those things, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But wanted to show these swings from the fall so you could see like the ability is there. Like it's not something which you're totally building from scratch. The ability is there. You just got to get it going in the right direction. So, Celeste, talk about the fall as a junior. We're kind of doing both. We're slapping, we're hitting. You know, we had some days where the hitting was really bad, and then we slapped, and then we had some days where we couldn't hit at all. Then we had some days where we didn't want to play softball anymore. Then we had some days where we played pretty well. So talk a little bit about the fall as a junior.
The fall as a junior was, like you said, a little bit everywhere, but it was still better than sophomore year. I had, after many conversations with Salters and he had begun to get to know me, and then I saw the effort that he was putting in on one-on-one, and I began to trust him, and all the extra time and he spent looking at film, sending me at freaking 12 a.m. Like, hey, I know what you were doing today. Like this, I know why you were sucking today, or I know why you thought you were sucking today, or you didn't feel right. But I was still slapping, really couldn't let that go yet. So, but I was hitting a lot more. So I didn't really practice slapping as much as because it kind of came natural. But I said, okay, if I hit, like, maybe if I hit, I can just literally turn my hitting into slapping, but move my feet. That wasn't the case. The slapping is what really caused my timing to suck. I could never get timing down my junior year. It was aggravating because I felt like I was there. I was a little uncomfortable in the box just because my timing was always off. It was always something other time. It was always like I was too early, or I didn't go when the hand was up, or I would come back to the dugout like, Salters, what did I do? Blah, blah, blah. Lots of conversation with him, lots of relationship, a lot better relationship built between him and I, which helped a lot my junior year. So, yeah.
All right, so let's go to the spring. Let's get into the spring. So I have a couple of clips. Let's see. I do. I have one clip. So it's a little up and down, and I will show this clip right here. This is against UIW. This was right around about, we're about 8 games left. We're a little further than that. We're probably about 8 or 10 games left from the end of the year. She's been, like she said, she's been slapping. You know, we'll hit when we're ahead in the count. We'll slap when we're behind. You know, if we haven't found a barrel, we'll slap. So it was going back and forth. This was the one game where she decided, we're getting towards the end of the year, she decided she wanted to swing. And this was the result of the bat against at bat against UIW.
There's a 2-2 pitch. Flopping off.
So she went 1 for 4 in this game. I do not think this was the one. But the big thing I wanted you to see is just watch how late these moves are. So if you watch out where the pitcher is, as the pitcher's getting to her spot, like she hasn't really moved. And so the arm is already coming through. And so Celeste is hypermobile in her thoracic. So she has to do a little bit more to create tension, which is fine. It's just her having to understand when those moves needed to happen and how they needed to happen. That was the part that was still very, very missing at this point in time. So as you can see, like the tip of the barrel is just really, really late. So if I'm trying to time and my moves are late, then everything else gets sped up. So once they get sped up, the body or the brain tells the body like, hey, you got to get the barrel there. However, you got to get it there. And so that's what ends up happening on this pitch. So this ball is away. The move with the action of the barrel tip is not a balancing move. And so the arms the arms just take over, and as you can see, they go out away from the body really bad here, and I end up hooking the ball and hitting the ball right towards the pitcher. And you know, that's kind of the result that I get from that. So after this game, so let's talk about after this game and what happened the next week, or what started to happen the next week.
After this game, considering this is the first game I just decided to hit, whether I fail or I succeed, I felt in my brain, even though my numbers weren't that bad, this was the worst year I've ever had. I had felt like I had hit rock bottom. I was like, you know what? Can't get any worse. I'm switching. Not the right mentality to have, but I had it. And then I went up to his office. This is the game before I went up to your office, right?
Yeah.
I went up to his office and I was like, Salters, I'm ready. I'm ready to hit. I'm tired of failing. I want to learn. I'm ready. And he's like, oh, okay, we got like 3 games left, but all right. He didn't say that, but I know I know what he was thinking. So really after this game, I enjoyed hitting, but I just wanted to stop failing so much. So I decided to stop being so hard-headed, put all my trust in it. I was already so far deep in it that I needed to let go of the slapping and what I used to be and focus on what I will be in the future.
So what happened? And to give you a little bit more context to that conversation that we had, we were fighting at that time. We were going to play UTEP, and we had 2 more conference series left. So we were fighting to try to get into the conference tournament at that point in time. And she had gone back and forth, like I said, all through that year, and made the decision. Then she came to the office and says, you know, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready to learn. And I'm like, ready to learn what? She's like, I want to hit. And like in my mind, I'm like, okay, good. But like, we really need to get into the tournament. And so like, we need you to be like productive these next couple games, not like use these next couple of games to like, let me figure out like if I like this and if I want to do it going forward. It's like, this isn't really the time to be doing that, but okay, like we can do it. So I'm going to show you these next couple clips. So this clip is, she went down on her own. Let's see, we played at that time, we played Saturday and Sunday. We played 2 Saturday and 1 Sunday. So at that time, we had Tuesday. So we played Wednesday. Wednesday, we played UIW. So we had Thursday and Friday. I'm sorry, we played UIW on Tuesday. So we had Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to try and figure out time. Again, as you saw in the UIW clip, like the moves weren't balanced up. The moves didn't sync up. It wasn't really clean. So I knew that we had 3 days for her to figure out how to try and time. Like the lead arm may not be good. Some of that stuff still may not be clean, but if she can figure out how to time, then her athleticism and her skill is going to give her a chance to have success the upcoming weekend. So the only thing that I was concerned about was trying to get the moves to balance out and try to get the moves to time. So she went down. I gave her my blast sensor. She went down on her own on Wednesday, I believe. And this is one of the videos that she sent me. So the biggest thing I want you to see here, for the first time, I think ever, you've got some moves now that are starting to sync up. Remember now, the lead arm good right now? No, it's not clean right now. But watch the action of the hip and the barrel. So remember, she had the barrel tip against UIW. So as you can see, like, as she makes her first move, you see the action of the barrel starting to balance out. So on the forward move now, look where the barrel is starting to get to. The barrel is now starting to work back as she gets ready to go, which is time. So now I get to this spot where you see how the knees are bowed apart, the arms are still back, and now I can start to at least give myself a chance to get the barrel out front. So she sent me like, this is one of the better ones. She sent me about, I I don't know, 8 to 12 clips from that day. And so for the first time, you could see her start to time a little bit. And so you get really excited as a coach. So the next day during practice, I'm going to show you this full round. And this is where she finds it.
And strong, but I feel like sometimes they're just
That was strike, my bad. Ball, sorry, no, wrong. Okay, rest it.
Hands move back.
Force the neck.
Yeah. Use your hands to move back.
Have I been doing that this whole time?
No.
Okay.
Use that one.
Oh, no. No ball. The ball. That doesn't count. That swing is deleted.
yeah.
One more. And
So that was the round. If you've ever read Talent Code, I talk about that book quite a lot. In the beginning of the book, they talk about the Clarissa moment. Daniel Coyle talks about the Clarissa moment, where more work was done. Clarissa learned more during that six to 8 minute time frame than she had learned in 3 months, because the body and brain had started to make the connection of what I was supposed to do, what it's supposed to feel like, not necessarily look like, but what it's supposed to feel like for me to be able to produce the result that I want. So I'm going to show you slow what that round looked like. Here's a single swing from that same round. The biggest thing that I want you to be able to see is the balancing moves. So watch. No back sway. As the leg comes up, you can see where the arms get to, or the barrel gets to. So these moves now are starting to balance themselves out, which is time. The ability to time. So now I get to launch or go position. You see the wrinkles in the shirt. You see the knees bowed apart. You see where the arms are. Is the arm still straightening out? Sure. But the ability to time and to get to my spot gives her a chance to now hit. And I know if she can make these moves right here, I can get from there to there. Athleticism and skill will take over, and we'll have a chance to hit. What we were trying to get to. So Celeste, talk a little bit about that day in the cage.
I didn't realize, honestly, how big that day was until probably my senior year when you told me what day it was. To me, I'm very hard on myself, so to me, that day was just like, oh, it's another day. I did feel like I felt more connected. And I did feel like I looked better and I didn't look so goofy with my leg going up first and then dropping and then swinging. But I didn't really feel as like whole. The first time I actually felt whole was at a game a week later or so. But this is like about the time where I realized that Coach Salters his way of coaching was through asking questions. This is like within a couple months. So like me asking him so many questions and like what I did in that video was pretty much how I learned. If I didn't ask those questions, I don't think I would have ever learned the swing. Also, the way him and I talk to each other, we just talk crap. This is what he does. It's just how we keep things fun. But that was it was better. It looked better, obviously, but I didn't feel 100% in that moment. But looking back at it now, realizing how much I struggled, how much that day, how much that day meant for me in my process.
So she talked about, so she heard her say something about asking the right questions. So beforehand, it had been very much, what am I doing wrong? How do I fix this? What do you see? And when the questions are very general like that, the person is asking to get an answer. And asking to get an answer, it may get you the result that you want right then, but there's no long-term learning or retention process that happens. As you saw in the video, she would take the swing and then she would ask a question, but ask it in suggestion. Have I been doing that the whole time? Are my hands not getting back? How is that? Those are questions asked with the intent of learning. If you can ask questions that way and then give feedback, the player is much more receptive and can learn and comprehend much faster than if they were just ask a general question, as in, what am I doing wrong? So I'm going to show UTEP. So this is UTEP. So we've had 3 days. That's kind of where we are. Here's UTEP that Saturday. So she doesn't swing in any one of these videos. But what I want you to see is the time. So as you see, look when she starts her move now, as you remember compared to UIW when the move started. You can see understanding how to get up and move through my spot as the ball is coming. I like to say feel time as opposed to try and see the ball and then time, which is what she was trying to do earlier. Now she's feeling herself time or move through positions as the ball is starting to make its way towards the plate. So UTEP. So you're going to UTEP, not really knowing. I'm not really knowing. We really, really need these games. And so we go into UTEP, and game 1, it's 2 for 3 with a double. Then game 2, it's 1 for 3. And then game 3, it's 1 for 2 with a triple. So, we go out against UTEP, and we're really, really productive, probably as productive as we've been in a series all year. So
this is the series where I decided to stand and hit and not slap any.
Yeah, she hit the whole weekend here. So I'm ecstatic because we end up winning 2 out of 3, which really, really helped us going into the next weekend. But Celeste, talk about UTEP a little bit.
From what I remember, I got in the box and I was still a little uncomfortable the first game. The second game and third game I settled in. I was back to my old confident self by the third game, but I knew their pitching wasn't as good as the other pitching in our conference, so it kind of gave me a little more confidence to build off of. They did have a fast pitcher. She was all over the place, wildly effective, but she chunked it. And so I was thinking before I even got in the box, I was like, I'm going to slap. I'm not going to do this. She's chunking it 66 and balls. So I'm going to swing. But I did it. I stuck with it. And I just remember Sunday before we played, we were tied 1-1. And Coach Cheatham pulled me aside. She's like, just relax, be confident, and play like you. And I remember I hit a leadoff triple that Sunday, and that was really a really big stepping stone for me to be like, wow, I really can do this. And maybe just UTEP, but I can do this. Granted, I don't even think I got on the rest of the game, but that just one at bat was enough for me to get that little stair step of confidence.
So now we've played, she stood in and hit all weekend. We've had, we had a very successful weekend. We hit a lot of balls hard. So what do you think happens next? Well, the work, the fervor for the work becomes, she almost can't get enough of the work. At this point, I can almost not give out enough information about, okay, this is what you need to try to do. This is what you should be trying to feel. This is what you should be trying to accomplish. So we go to Western Kentucky the next week with 3 games left. This was the work or some of the work leading up to Western Kentucky.
Grant, they're the second best coaches in our conference.
See how we're down today? The turn is tight.
So that's top hand on the bucket, seated on the bucket there. I'm going to show you the single swing here, just kind of show you what she's trying to accomplish. So big thing that you want to look at when you're trying to do this. So usually anyone that has a big lower half move, I try and isolate. If we're going to start with one arm stuff, I started seating down because you want to kind of take that big move out of it, give them something else to concentrate on. Still, as you can see, like the middle's going first, and you can see how the back arm is now working much, much better than it was at any point before. Combination of better understanding, asking better questions. You heard her in the video asking me something about, I believe you asked me something about your hand and how it's supposed to work. But you can see how the barrel's working from behind much, much better. The pivot or the barrel's extending her arms at this point. So not near as much pushing action going on and having that a lot cleaner. Here is, let's see. Here is two-hand ISO work seated on the bucket. So that's two arm work. So same thing as we were doing with one arm, but obviously we got real balls, regular bat. Here's a single swing from it so I can show you a little bit slower what's actually going on. So you can see, taking out the tension here, you can see the middle go first. You can watch right next to her left hip, the middle goes first, which pulls the back arm down. But you can see how much better the spacing is between the arms. So you can see how the lead arm, the barrel, everything's in the same line. Barrel's behind the eyes. Barrel's working around the hand and able to work and keep everything with a good direction, working back through the middle of the field. One more. Here's some more ISO work, but we're standing up in a stretch and fire position. So that's another pretty good one. I'm going to show, here we go. So I'm going to show you what's going on here as well. So as you can see, the middle starts to go, back arm's working down. Big thing I want you to be able to notice though as we go through these frames is that our arms aren't plunging down towards the ball. Even though I'm throwing these balls low in the zone, you can see how, back it up to these frames, how the hands are staying up by the shoulder line. And so the barrel can get turned back behind and I can keep good direction working back through the middle of the field. So we have really good work going into UTEP. Like it's really consistent. It's really on point. So now I'm going to show what happens at Western Kentucky. Come So this is a ball at Western Kentucky. You see the scoreboard in the right center. This ball was still climbing as it left the yard. Big thing I want you to see, time. Watch these moves. So watch where the pitcher is and where she gets to. If you remember the UIW stuff, how late the move was, now look how early and soon this move is. So now as the ball starts coming, I'm starting to create the tension and move through the positions I need to get to. So now look where she lands. The ball is about halfway, maybe a little less than halfway towards the plate. And look what the position that I'm in. I'm ready to go, as opposed to not getting to that position until this point and the ball beating me to the spot. I now can beat the ball, pretty good spacing in the arms, and I'm able to drive. She's able to drive that ball out. So, Celeste, talk about Western Kentucky.
So I think I had that hit, my only home run for the year, and then I had another single or so, the whole 3-game series. But regardless of like regardless if I got on base or not, that was probably my favorite weekend from junior year to freshman year. At least what we can do junior year, sophomore year. I found the barrel the first 2 games. I think it was like 4 or 5 times. I had 4. The first 4 at bats were like warning track in left field. This was also the first weekend where I realized I didn't get pissed off when I came in the dugout when I got out. Even Carlton was like, "Whoa, you're not mad." I was getting like aggravated, but not aggravated. I had flown out 4 times in a row, I remember, to left field, left center, freaking, what is it? The fence, okay, whatever. And I was so close, and I felt it. Was that the 3rd game? That was the 3rd game.
Oh, the home run? The home run happened in game 2.
Okay. And I think that was probably my 5th at bat, or maybe I had a single right before that, and then I hit that. But all in all, I realized like me getting out wasn't whether I was doing good or not, because I had 4 barreled up freaking hits and I felt great. Granted, I wasn't on base, but I felt great and I was okay with it.
So we go to Western. Game 1, she's 0 for 3, but again, like 3 barrels to like left center field. So then game 2, she goes 2 for 3. She hits a home run, but finds 3 barrels. Game 3, it's 1 for 3. Again, like finds 2 or 3 barrels. And it was getting to the point where it was like, okay, we're on like, we've had 16, we have 9 at bats. And then if you count going back, we had 8 against UTEP. So we're at like 14 or 15 at bats. And it's like, 12 or 13 barrels in a row. Like it now, granted, it wasn't super clean, but it was just balls were just being hit hard. They were going to hit hard to left center. They were going to hit hard to right center. You're like, okay, dude, like we might be on to something here. So we end up getting to the conference tournament, and game 1 against Southern Miss, she goes 2 for 3, hits 2 balls really hard. And you're like, all right, man, like maybe like it usually doesn't happen like this, but maybe this is it. I don't know. I'm just gonna ride. Let's just ride the wave as long as we can. And so against Marshall, we played the second game against Marshall. She leads off the game. Flies out to the track in right field. Right fielder catches it with the ball up against her back against the fence.
First pitch.
You're like, dang, dude, like how long can this work? So she comes up. She's in the hole for her 3rd at bat. She's standing next to me, and I'm like, hey, man, you got to be feeling pretty good right now. And she's like, yeah, the hell with that slapping stuff. I ain't doing that no more. I'm like, oh, really? She's like, yeah. She's like, it's way funner to stand in here and hit. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, what brought you to that conclusion? She's like, man, I ain't never hit the ball like this before in my life. She's like, I wish I had learned this sooner. I'm like, yeah, well, we'll just leave it at where it's at, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to show kind of that stretch. So this is the last 8 games of the year. The Southern Miss and Marshall one should be flipped. But these are the last 8 games of the year. As you can see, I've shown this one because I want you to see kind of what happened to the average there towards the end. You see there's a lot going on in the hit column. And then if I move it, I'm going to move it over to the handwritten one. It's a little bit easier to be able to see. So here's the handwritten one that I had in front of me. So this is the handwritten one. Again, it was 9 for 22. It's 409, 3 extra base hits. Very, very easily could have been 14 for 22, 15 for 20. I mean, it very easily could have been well over 500 if a couple of those barrels that she got would have fallen. But end of the year, like, just going really, really well. So Celeste, talk a little bit about, you finish up UTEP, then the work, like you start to thirst for the work, and then we get into Western, and yeah, we don't get a bunch of hits, but like we're just hitting balls hard, and then we go into the conference tournament and we do what we do. Just talk a little bit about that.
So I had just given up slapping, obviously. It was kind of, I don't know, this is kind of like those little 8 games is really where I fell in love with hitting. Like you said, against Marshall, I said, the hell with slapping. That had a really big effect on it. And I just really learned to trust the process and trust Salters and trust his knowledge. Granted, I should have done it probably a year and a half sooner. But I got there. Did you say you want me to talk about the summer?
Yeah,
After?
talk and then the summer, like, now like the conversations between us have gone from like, hey, Coach Carlson, like, how do I get better at this? How do I get better at that? To like now the conversation is like, hey, look, I want to make first team all conference. Like, all right, like, you know what you got to do? Yep. What do you think? I'm like, between 300 and 330 and 12 and 12. Say, Coach Carlson, I can't hit 10 home runs. I was like, yeah, you can. I was like, if you get off to a good start, you can. I was like, you got to clean some stuff up. I was like, but that's what you asked me what it was going to take. That's what it's going to take. It's like, okay, what do I need to do? All right, like, this is what she. So talk a little bit about some of that stuff that we talked about.
For one, we talked about kind of being fully committed to hitting, and you're gonna have to work your ass off pretty much. And so I did. And I sent him and I probably didn't go more than a day and a half without texting. Send videos, tried to straighten my arm out. That was tough. Spilt water everywhere, all over the kitchen sink because of that drill.
I remember that one. I don't know if I should have sent you that one, but I mean, I was like, I don't know, try this. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll work.
Turned out I just needed to turn a straight arm.
Yeah, later on we figured that out.
So I really was like, you know what? I've had the worst 2 years of softball in my life. I may not have had it in the audience's eyes or whatever, but in my eyes, I didn't feel great until the very end of my junior year. And I was like, okay, hitting's fun. Like, this is what it feels like. This is what I could be. I also I had a player, Bailey Baldwin. She hit 19 home runs this year. I'm like, all right, obviously the swing works. I just need to quit slapping maybe and stop beating around the bush and quit throwing like a little pity party that he's here and get to work. And so that summer before my senior year, I got to work and I was going to make it the best year of my life. And well, I was well on my way.
So as the end of the junior year, it was 324, 7 doubles, 2 triples, the lone homer against Western. And so not a bad year as far as like numbers wise, but kind of in a transition, kind of trying to, a far cry from 330 with 12 and 12, which is what I thought, she would need to do to accomplish some of the things that she wanted to accomplish. So now we're going to move on to the fall as a senior. So here is some games from the fall. I only have game stuff. I don't have any practice stuff from the fall. I have some from the spring, which I'll show in a minute. But here is fall as a senior, the first AB. So this is a ball she hit off the top of the left field scoreboard to open up the fall. Now, as you can see, I'll get into more of what's actually going on under the hood a little bit because it starts to get really clean and really good. So she has a little bit of circle motion with her hands to kind of set up her body and barrel to go into the gather phase. Remember that for later on because that ended up causing us some problems that we had to work through. But at this point, it was really good. It was really in sync. So as you can see, again, carrying over from what you saw at Western, the moves are not as big. She started to really understand and ask really good questions and started to apply all the information for herself and figured out how to still do the things that she needed to do without the move being so big and so wild. So again, something that you can repeat. If I can repeat it, I can control it. If I can control it, I can consistently get my good swing off, which is what you're trying to accomplish. So the leg comes up, see the barrel getting up, look where the pitcher is. The pitcher still has the ball, so I'm feeling myself work through my spots. You see on the way forward, the barrel can now work back, and now I can work behind balls. Because remember, we talked about you get the contact, as you can see, lead arm, the barrel are all in the same line. Pretty good side bend here or lateral flexion of the spine to stay over the plate, and really good direction. Drive this ball out. Now here's the second at bat of the same game in the fall.
Good hit. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
So drive this ball in the left center field for a double. Again, as you can see, leg coming up, barrel starting to work up. These moves are in balance. They're balancing themselves out. Make my move forward as the ball is coming, passing through positions. Looks like looks like this ball might have even been off the plate a little bit. But my direction's really good. And I'm still able to drive this ball in the left center field. Now, we go to the next game of the fall. Here is the first at bat of the next game. So we also drive this ball off the scoreboard in left center field. So, and this one, tip didn't get as big. Probably felt a little bit rushed is going to be my guess for that. But again, as the leg gets ready to come up, the barrel comes up. So we get to the same spot that we want to get to. As the ball is coming, we load through our positions. The middle goes. And again, remember, lead arm, and barrel all in the same line. Head's behind the barrel. Barrel's getting out front. And we drive this ball off the scoreboard in left center field. So here's one more I'm going to show from the fall. This is a single up the middle. The thing I want you to see about this is one thing that once she understood what the go was with the middle, understanding how to turn from the middle. Again, leg comes up, barrel gets up, controlling going forward, but you can see the body lowers. This is a changeup, so the body lowers, but the hands now are staying up. They stay up until the ball, and then I go. Again, as you can see, barrel, lead arm, all in the same line. Really good flexion of the spine here. They stay over the plate. But the part that I want you to really see is, if you remember, I showed you from her sophomore year, ball down in the zone, knob work down towards it, then the pivot action happens. That's not happening anymore. Now she's understanding how the body lowers and the arms stay up until I need them. And it allows me to stay on the ball and keep good path with my barrel. So, Celeste, we have a really good fall. And I think combined, if we count the inter squad stuff, I think you hit 7 or 8 homers. So we've hit more than we've ever hit in our life. And we do play really well in the games. Talk a little bit about the fall.
The fall was kind of like a breath of fresh air for me in the beginning. In the beginning, it was actually like junior year again, and then I finally felt like things were working once we got some one-on-one time, and after I started seeing live more. But the fall after we had played those games was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, wow, like I can really do it. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to freaking go. It's November and I'm ready for February already.
So, what do we work on in the fall? What did I tell you?
We worked on a lot of I worked on a lot of front hand stuff and a lot of this because I locked my arm out. And that's when we were really trying hard to kind of bend my arm instead of turning it straight.
What did we do over the winter? What did you do over the winter?
That's when you sent me the cup where you're supposed to put your cup right here full of water.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I did the towel. I did a lot of towel. That's pretty much what I'm main focused on. I did a lot of I knew my lower body was good, so I worked on a lot of hand stuff because getting the hands right and getting the hands ready to pop was kind of like the hardest thing for me because you don't do that when you're slapping at all.
So we're gonna go to now the spring of this past year. So here are a couple of spring at bats. Spring inner squads going into the season. So now we can talk a little bit about, as you can see, like moves are getting really clean. Leg comes up, barrel comes up, barrel gets vertical. Look how early this is. How early and soon these actions are happening. So now I got plenty of time to read speed, spin, and location. Really good direction. Working bad through the middle of the field. She drives this ball off our flagpole. That's in center field. Here's another one.
When you drop step, the drop step goes back in.
So same thing. Look how clean these moves are now. So now leg comes up, barrel comes up. Look how early this action's starting to happen now. So now I've got plenty of time to go through my process to get to my spot, which her spot is about right here. So look at she's starting to pass through her spot as the ball's just now starting to get released. So now I got plenty of time to read speed, spin, and location and make a decision to decide when to go. So as you can see, like lead arm, barrel, everything's in line. Barrel working from behind, out through. It's really good direction under the shoulders. Takes a ball that is middle, and drives it directly over, maybe a little bit towards left center field, but drives that right in the same line that you really want to be on. I'm going to show this right here is a full at bat from the spring. I want you to watch the process that she goes through in this at bat. you see that process that bat. I mean, that's kind of where we are. Even the one ball where she swings and she misses it, she's early. She knows like right away, bam, dang, the go was early. Like there's nothing else to do. I just get in there and say, okay, make sure I back it up, make sure I stay behind it. And then when I get another mistake pitch to hit, I'll drive the ball back up the middle for a hit. So we're really good in the spring. We're really good in the inter squads in the spring. Our work's really good. Like we know what's going on. What's the worst thing that can happen?
I go my first game my senior year after all the hard work and strike out 3 times.
We get off to an absolutely horrendous start. I'm talking about, she's swinging at balls over her head. There's balls skipping up there. You're like, oh my God. Like,
I was so excited to hit. I was not even looking. I was just like, throw a strike, swing.
So we sprinkle some hits like in there. Like there's some hits sprinkled in, but it's a lot of like cut balls, the left field, a hook a ball between the hole. You're just like, what is going on? So I'm going to show you. This is a home run she hit against Prairie View in the opening weekend tournament. So hit this ball really well. Moves aren't bad here. Like we're getting to a good spot. This swing's working right a little bit, but this ball's up and in. So it kind of plays into our path a little bit, but still doing some things really well right here at this point. So now, Celeste, we play HBU. And we play HBU, and it's still like more of the same. Contact's not great. Rolled over a couple balls. And so she comes back, and she's like, Coach Carlton, I don't feel right. Like something feels off. And in my mind, I'm like, as a coach, you don't want to make problems where there isn't a problem. So we're still early. We're probably 9 or 10 at bats in. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe your timing's just not there. Like, maybe the adrenaline's running a little bit, like make sure you breathe, like all those types of things. And she's like, no, like, it's like, I don't know. It's like, I feel tight and like stiff. And I'm like, where are your moves on time? Yeah, but it doesn't feel as easy. I'm like, okay, like, I'm kind of formulating a thing in my mind, but still not super concerned, I should say. Not super concerned until we went to Texas State the next weekend or that weekend. So I'm going to show you what happened or what kind of became glaring against Texas State. Boy, now where is it? Here we go. So this one where I want you to see, this is a ball she hit foul. The first thing I want you to see is how bad the shoulders are working right and how this swing, everything's going right. On that one, I'm going to show you this one. This one's full speed. She actually gets a hit on this, but I'll show it to you. So
that's all I could do was either foul them off or pull them freaking on the ground.
So I talked about in the fall how she had like a hand circle motion that will set up how the leg lifts and then the barrel tips. Like that's her balancing move. So what I want you to see here, and I'll describe to you how she was able to talk me through some of this stuff, is you can see the leg hasn't come up yet, and look what's happening to the barrel. So remember I said the leg comes up and then the barrel tips. Well, at this point, the barrel is tipping and then the leg is coming up. So she's used to the leg coming up, the barrel tipping, everything flowing. Well, now with the barrel coming up first and then the leg coming up, the process of feeling the barrel get vertical, she's now, as you can see a little bit, the shoulders are raising up and getting a little bit counter rotated to replace that feel that was already there, what was natural, but is now not there anymore. So in turn, she said, I feel tight. It's not flowing as well. I feel like I'm trying, like my swing is forced. What she's trying to convey is I feel in my shoulders, and then I have to force myself out, which you can see in this swing. See how everything, even though this ball is a little bit in, that ball still should be hit more towards back up the middle over the second baseman's head versus right next to the first baseman, because look how right all of this is working right. You can even see at the finish how it goes right. So I get on the video and I see this and I says, hey, I says, this is what I see. I says, this is why I think you feel in your shoulders. So I show her that video versus the video that we had in the fall. And I says, we need to get back. I says, you got two options. I says, we can get back to the circle motion. They got us in a good spot. Or we can lay the bat flat on our shoulders. Leg comes up, barrel gets up, and we get back to the spot that we were in the fall. So what I'm going to show you now is the work from that day. Contact one just out front. Good go. Just contact. What was that?
I got under it, so I don't even know. My shoulders weren't out.
No, because it went the right way. What do you think happened?
Maybe I pushed a little,
Barrel was a little late.
so it means I'm pushing a little bit.
It just didn't get there. Yeah, it just didn't get there.
Really.
Think about that.
Better. Why do I slide?
Bro, I'm gonna show you the single video. Show you what's happening. So back to kind of the bat. She didn't have it set right here. She eventually gets it set, but as you can see, bat's kind of closer to the shoulders. So now you see, leg comes up. There goes the barrel. So now we're back to what we were doing really well. Barrel gets up. So now on my move forward, now I can start to pass through my positions really well again. And now I can work back under my shoulders with really good direction versus getting the barrel up vertical too soon. Now my shoulders get raised. Now I'm in my shoulders or I'm tight. First thing that goes is going to be my right shoulder. Swing's going to work right. And all the issues that we were currently having are still going to be there. So that's what we did on that day. So we also did a little bit of stretch and fire, which I'm going to show you that as well. Turn forward. Front forward. Okay, now just catch that ball. That's good. Right direction. Just catch that ball out front. So you're kind of catching that ball. And your barrel's back here.
Than used to be.
Get the barrel to the front. Right? Keep the same direction, but don't turn it back here and then drag it. As I get forward, turn it to the front. getting. It's not. Barrel's just not getting. Direction's good because I'm taking this ball out here and I'm driving this way, but it's not getting there. So when do I apply the pressure on the handle? But when in the launch?
Like the ball?
Yes, you're doing it before. So right now you're so I'm gonna slice. I stay in now. And once I get it here, I let the barrel go. So I let the barrel extend my arms once I get it there.
I remember feeling that move and at that at least 13 times. For every
Yes. Front arm get forward, apply pressure, forward. See the direction now?
Yeah.
So now you're under, and instead of slicing that ball, you're applying it right at it, and now I get the ball to go straight. Good. Just contact once. Feel how you had to reach for it?
Yeah.
Now go normal. So you saw, like, after I came up and demoed it to her, how much cleaner and sharper and how much louder contact got. I'll show you. Here it is. I'll show you the single swing from that session to show you kind of what we're looking at. So you heard me say a lot. Front arm get forward. Make sure the arm gets forward. Apply pressure on the handle at the ball. Don't do it too soon, and then my shoulders have to engage, and then I have to drag the bat across the ball, which is going to make me slice because my barrel is going to get inside of the ball and cut the inside part of the ball. So what you're kind of looking at, as you can see, as the middle starts to go, how the arms pop up. See how the front arm gets forward, and now see where the pivot's happening. So versus happening, if the pivot were to happen all the way back here, and then the shoulders drag the bat to the ball, it's getting turned forward, which is what you want to see happen. So see the good spacing in the arms at contact, and then see how the barrel, so my arms are bent at contact. And then as the barrel gets out in front, the barrel extends my arms, and my direction can stay working under and back through the middle of the field. So we had, how long were we down there that day? Probably about 45 minutes.
Yeah, every 3 days in a row, but at like 8 a.m. and like 30-degree weather before.
So that day's pretty good. And so, we're supposed to go to the game that night and hit, right? And that was supposed to happen. You practice good and then you play good, right?
Yeah.
No, we were terrible. So we were terrible the next game. We're still over. Like, we're not hitting balls hard. We're still hooking stuff. And so I'm in the dugout, and I'm like, oh, my gosh. Like, we've had a really good day of work. Like, pregame work is good. And we're not hitting. And so she comes in the dugout, I think probably before your third or fourth at bat. And I'm like, how are you feeling? You're like, oh, I feel good. She's like, I know. She's like, I don't have any hits or anything. She's like, but like, she's like, I just think my timing's a little off because my bat's flat on my shoulder. She's like, so I'm just trying to get that. She's like, but she's like, I feel like under. She's like, I don't feel like I'm spinning off the ball real bad. She's like, so I'm a little bit early. She's like, I got to back the ball up a little bit. She's like, but I feel good. I was like, all right, that's good. She's like, that stuff we did today, can we do that again tomorrow before we come over here with a little bit more of direction stuff to make sure I work through the middle of the field? Yeah, we can do that. I don't have a problem with that. So here is that work from that day where we did a little bit more directional stuff. Direction. So what's happening?
I don't know. I'm kind of just not getting it.
Yeah, getting there. You're like back.
That's kind of.
Yeah.
Like the ball's beating my bat back.
Yep.
Too much.
So these balls should be hit right back up the middle or that way, about this high. That's what you should shoot for. Right there.
Too much. I'm just getting around it.
Yep. See where your wrist is though?
Yeah, I was like this.
It's like it didn't look like this. So instead of if it stays here, then I gotta let that ball carry. That's another reason to use the short bat. Because I can't. The short bat, if I get up here, I'm gonna run out of bat.
Yeah.
So I'll show you the single swing from that session. I'll show you two of them actually. So here's one with the ball a little bit lower in the zone. So big thing I want you to know. So I don't want people after they watch this to go, oh, let's go just do a bunch of one-arm ISO work and like that'll fix a bunch of stuff. Like no. Like there's a purpose behind this, and you have to make sure when you do ISO type work that you're still using the body correctly, because you can very easily, when you do ISO work, just stand there and just pull the front arm forward a whole bunch and be like, oh yeah, I'm getting better at my direction, and you're really not doing anything but starting to create bad habits. So what I want you to see is you can see the middle start to go. See how the middle starts to turn, how it allows the front arm to get up. It naturally happens if you do it. It's something that's really, really important. If you do ISO work, is to make sure that you're still taking out all the tension, you're still going from the middle, and you're not just pulling your arm forward and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing it right, because you're not going to be getting the body to work correctly. So as you can see, the front arm's getting up and getting forward. And as you can see how it's getting turned towards contact. Again, lead arm and barrel all in the same line behind the ball, and then the barrel finishes extending the arm as we're working on it. That's a ball a little bit lower in the zone. So here's a ball a little bit higher in the zone. Same thing that you can see here. So ball a little bit higher in the zone. You can see again, the middle goes. You see how the front arm gets up towards the pitch height. This is something that should always happen. Front arm gets up and towards the pitch height. See how it gets forward. Again, lead arm, barrel, all in the same line. I don't have to tilt as much because the ball is already elevated for me, but my direction still has to be really, really good. So this is the stuff that we did. I think this was on the Friday before we went over and played. So really good work on Thursday. Really good work on Friday. What happened in the game on Friday? Early in the game on Friday.
The first at bat, I believe I got out. Or I hit a trick.
We were bad.
Yeah.
The first two at bats were bad again. So we've had 2 really good days of work, really good pregame. As you can see in the videos, we ask good questions. We know what's going on, and we still can't hit. So she comes the third at bat, and she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna bunt." I was like, she's like, "You have a problem with me bunting right here?" She's like, I need something good to happen. I'm like, "No." I was like, third baseman playing back. I was like, "I get it." She's like, I need some self-confidence. It's like, I ain't doing too good. I ain't doing too good right now. I said, okay. I says, no problem. I says, hey, I says, if she's got to come in 3 or 4 steps, I was like, you should be safe. She's like, okay. So this is what happened the third at bat. So she didn't bunt, as you can see. So again, so now we're at the point where the bat is flat on the shoulders, like I was saying and explaining to you. And so now you see leg comes up, here comes the barrel. Leg comes up, here comes the barrel. So now I move forward. Now I get to pass through those positions that I was used to feeling. And you can see how lead arm's getting up and forward. This is really, really good right here. And drives this ball off the left center field wall for a triple. So she comes back in the dugout, and I was like, hey, she ends up scoring on the sac fly later, next hitter. I says, hey, I thought you were going to bunt. She said, yeah, I changed my mind. I said, when? She goes, when I was getting in the box. I'm like, all right. So why'd you change your mind?
I was getting in the box, and the first thing I was thinking was, yeah, I can bunt, but all this hard work, what I've been working on, would just go in the trash. And I can hit this pitcher. I'm better than her. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to try. I was like, if I get out, screw it. At least I tried. So I just kind of I really didn't want to give up yet. I wanted to make it work, and I wanted to hit because hitting is fun. That's when I really realized it this past couple of weeks. So I just didn't want to give up. Put too
Well,
much
she
work.
scores on the sac fly, and I'm like, hey, I thought it was a bunch. She says, no, I changed my mind. And then she goes, afterwards, she's like, I'm good now. She's like, I got it now. She's like, it's on now. She's like, I just needed that one. She's like, I got that one. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay. So this is what happens. The fourth at bat. So this gets ruled a double. She tried to go for a triple, and
It was a triple. I was safe. He called me safe. I was safe.
she gets ejected for this. It was a mess. But we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is what happened in the box. So funny thing is, so she comes up. So if you can see, like, switch pitchers, and so look how early, like, she's literally hangs out. Just kind of hangs out. She gets up too soon because at the time I'm like, she just hit a ball off the wall. Like, I'm really excited. Like, I'm good now. Like, I'm ready to go. So look how early she gets up and just she kind of hangs out and just let the pitcher do her thing, and then finishes completing her process and drives this ball. All I remember about this ball was if the first baseman had been playing about 2.5 feet to the right, it would have hit her square in the nose. And it would have been really bad. Like, the ball was past her before she ever raised her glove. But she drives this ball down the right field line for a double. So now we got 2 knocks, and now we're off to the races. So where do we go the next weekend? Went to JSU the next weekend, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then Arlington.
Okay, so we end up finishing that game. And here's the last game of that tournament. So this is just a nice job of hitting right here. As you can see again, barrel's flat on the shoulder. Leg comes up, barrel comes up. Control my move, get to a good spot. Again, remember we talked about she understood now that the middle was the go. Lowers into contact, able to keep the hands up, take an all-speed pitch, and just drive it back up the middle for a base hit. So I want to show you guys from the backside kind of the change, what they look like together. Before we move on, I want to show you what that looks like so you can see kind of how we went from the 2 moves. So we got the one on the right is the fall where we still had the hand circle motion. The one on the left is where we went and just flattened it out.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to see, like, you take the circle motion out of it. This is what we were trying to get to. So we were getting to the same spot that we were in and allowing those good actions that we created in the fall for her to be able to recreate them when we were starting to struggle with that move to time. So we just took out the hand circle motion and got back to these good moves right here. So now we go off to Jacksonville State. So here's a triple she hits against Sanford. So ball down and in. As you can see, remember now, leg comes up, barrel's starting to come up. So now you see how these moves are really starting to get balanced out, really getting to get synced up real well. She does a nice job right here of keeping enough space. When ball kind of down and in, gives a barrel a chance to get out there, get out in front, drives this ball. I think she hit this ball off the right center field wall, but ends up getting a triple out of it. Here's a home run she hit against JSU the same weekend. So again, moves are getting really, really good. Leg comes up, barrel gets up. I'm up in plenty of time. Control going forward. This ball is elevated. As you can see, how the lead arm's getting forward. The ball's up. I mean, that's really, really good right there. Drives that ball out to center field. So now, like I said earlier, we're off and running. Here's another ball. Basically, she had up the middle against Sanford, that same earlier game. Again, as you can see, these moves are really, really balanced. Timing really, really well. Regardless, take out, like, don't look at how big the move is. Look at the fact that the moves are balanced and she's moving through spots. This is what you want to see right here. Moving through spots really, really well and able to stay on balls, even though she hit this ball a little bit off the end. Able to have really good direction and really be able to stay through the middle of the field. So then we go to Arlington. So here's, unfortunately, our video camera is just so-so, but here's a changeup she hits against at the Arlington tournament. So which I want you to see here, again, moves are balanced up, moves are synced up, off-speed pitch, doesn't try and go out and get it, head lowers, arm stays up, and is able to stay behind that ball and just dump it into left field on an off-speed pitch when I was behind in the count. So Celeste, talk about those 2 weekends there before we get into the last little bit that we're going to talk about here.
Those 2 weekends were really me thinking about whether, like, what pitch I was gonna be getting. I think it was Arlington. I had a pretty rough weekend. It wasn't great, but I wasn't finding hitting like power like I wanted to. So I really just kept the same mindset, keep working. Really focused on, like, when I would do my swing through, I would do this 1,000 times, like literally 13 times before every pitch, and just really try to fill myself out and try to just be calm and breathe.
So now we're gonna go to the final stretch here that I'm gonna show. So now we're at UIW. So we're getting ready to play North Texas coming in that weekend. We're gonna play UIW. So here is the first at bat to lead off the game against UIW. So Celeste hits this ball off the flag in center field, and I'll show you the other version. So, as you can see, remember this picture because I have another video to show you from this. As you can see, leg comes up, barrel gets up. Look how soon this is. Able to control and work through space. And you can see how the barrel's working. Again, lead arm, barrel in the same line, drives this ball out to center field. Here is another at bat from that game. This is a double she hit into left center field. This ball even got in on her a little bit, or it would have been 2 homers. But you can see just the moves at this point are really, really good. And if I show you this, this combination. Here we go. So I showed you the UIW swing from her senior year and from her junior year. So here's the funny thing about that. The picture in the video is the same picture on both of them. So it's a really good video if you want to kind of compare and see the difference. So again, you look at the top. Picture's going through her motion. You look at the top. Look how late her move is to get ready to hit. And then everything's rushed and sped up. Look at the bottom. Same exact picture, same exact motion. Look at the difference. And when, again, if I look at the top, the move gets made there. The arm is already coming through. And the bottom, on the initial first backswing of the pitcher, the move is starting to be made. So now when she gets ready to come through, look where I am. I'm already ready to go. I mean, she would have to throw the ball at this point at like 70 plus miles an hour to be able to beat my move with pure velo. But I'm going to have plenty of time to be able to read this ball out. So we go into North Texas, the opening conference series of the year. What did I tell you before we played North Texas?
Every pitch you get, you better hit out, or you're gonna hit 9 out, 9 at bats, 9 home runs.
I don't know if I said that, but I said every pitch you get, you should hit the ball out.
Yeah,
And
I
you
was
just
laughed.
Yeah, you kind of laughed at me. And so here is the first at bat from North Texas. Oh, it's the double. Here we go. Here's the first at bat from North Texas. This is Friday night. So a pretty good start. First at bat, take a tough pitch. Then I drive a ball into left field for our first hit of the game. So here is at bat number 2. So this is a double in the right center field. As you can see again, these moves are just really good. Really balance themselves out. Work through areas, take a ball, middle third in, and drive the ball into right center field for a double. So now we go to Saturday. So we have 2 hits in game 1. Feel real good about it. Saturday, first 2 at bats. The pitcher's doing a few things a little bit differently. Struggling a little bit with timing, just understanding what I want to do, coming off a really big night. So feel real good about it. So maybe a little jumpy. Here is the third at bat against North Texas on Saturday. So runners at first and second. Takes a ball up out over the plate. Does a really good job of staying on this ball. Drives it in left field for a hit to load the bases. We ended up scoring a couple runs this inning. So get ourselves back going pretty good. And then here is at bat number 4. I'm going to show it to you from 2 different angles, and then I will go back and show to you what actually was going on. Here is the backside view of the same swing.
Count with bases loaded. And Loughman lifts this one up to left center. It hits the scoreboard. A grand slam for senior Celeste Loughman. A grand slam to put the Roadrunners up 9-1, and that's going to be a run rule here, bottom of.
Celeste walks them off. It's a grand slam, and I'll show you. From the front so you can see what happens. Very similar to the pitch that she hit down the left field line. Again, moves are really good. Stays on this ball, something that we've done. You know, she's done a ton at this point in that fall. Stays on this ball. Good direction. Doesn't pull off this ball and drives it to left center field off the top of the scoreboard. I'll show it to you from behind. Same thing. Again, look where she gets to as the pitcher's making her move. I'm up early, plenty of time, control going forward. Really good staying on this ball and drive this ball to left center field to win us this game. I know I showed a lot of emotion here after she hit this ball, and it had very little showing the emotion had very little to do with us actually winning the game. It was more so because how much trust she had put in, all the other videos and stuff that we've talked about prior to that point. That was what the emotion was for. It was before all of that. Like, she had hit that ball a year before she ever hit that ball. So when a kid puts in that type of time and that type of effort, as a coach, you want to see that rewarded. And at that point in the season, no bigger moment than that for that time to be rewarded. So that was what all the emotion that you saw from me there was in that point. But it gets better. So we have 2 hits on Friday. We have 2 hits on Saturday. We walk it off. You're like, dude, like, Sunday's gold. Here is the first at bat on Sunday. So, again, moves are really good at this point. Takes a ball, as you saw before, if you remember from her sophomore year, the arm plunge kind of down towards even these balls that are middle. But now, as you can see, how the barrel's getting turned up, or the knob, I should say. Sorry, the knob is getting turned up, which in turn is having the effect on the barrel. So now I take this ball that's in, and I hit this ball. If you've ever been to our field, there's a big oak tree in right field, and then there's a road in the tennis courts. This ball didn't quite make it into the road, but it cleared the oak trees in right field. And you can see a little bit of emotion, a little bit of a bat slam there. This was this to give us the lead to start the game off?
This is the first at bat.
Yeah, it's to give us the lead to start the game off. But guess what? It gets even better. So here's the second at bat. I'll let you watch it again because I played kind of quick. So this is a changeup. She hits this ball out as well. So as you can see, like, you can kind of see how she holds the middle a little bit and then decides to go. So it's about right here. You can see she kind of holds. See the head lowering. And then the go action happens. I'll show you this combo here. Here's a combo here. You can see it a little more clearly. So you can see is the one on the left. One on the left is the first at bat. See how everything just flows. One continuous motion, no real pause. You can see on the right, still the same type of continuous motion, but you can see how she holds just a hair to buy some time and then allows the continued motion to happen. That's what, when you hear people talk about the middle being the go, understanding how to control launch, how to shut it down. This is what a hitter does when they start to understand what that is really, really well. And then it can in turn put it into action during the game. So Celeste, talk about North Texas.
Probably the best, happiest social learning weekend of my whole career. In that weekend, even after Sunday, I felt like these past 2 years of failing so many times, having to be okay and accept that failure is gonna happen. Trusting in somebody I barely know and just putting in hours and hours of work and the amount of cuss words I said and the amount of craps I said to Salters or whatever. It all just kind of like was all worth it. This is actually probably one of the reasons why I chose to play another year, because I wasn't ready to end it.
So give you a little bit of just numbers background, because people like numbers. As of the first 3 years, 507 at bats, 32 extra base hits combined. This past year, an abbreviated year, 80 at bats, 14 extra base hits. So was almost halfway to 3 years worth of extra base hits in half the games. If you want to get a little bit deeper, as a freshman had 11 extra base hits, sophomore had 11, junior had 10, and halfway through, and those were in 52 games. In 25 games this year, we were already at 14. So we had already eclipsed our previous year's totals in extra base hits in half the games. Ended the year with, it was 375. So we were already at 375 with 5, 2 triples, 7 homers, which career high was 4. So we had already broken that, and 60 total bases. So unless she falls off a cliff here over the second half, you're probably looking at, and I'll just be real stingy, you're probably looking at maybe 340 with at least 10 and 12. I mean, that's if, that's probably being generous. I mean, you're probably going to be closer to something like 360 with 12 and maybe 14 or 15. Like, we're going to get close to that 15 mark, just because of some of the things that we were having coming down the pipe and some of the places that she was in. Before I open up for questions, I wanted to show this. I thought this was really funny. I didn't show this last time, but I'm going to show it this time because I had to grab it. So this is a message. We used to have GroupMe. We have Band now. But this was a message. I want you to see this message here when she sent this to me and the date. So this was a message she sent me October of 2018, talking about when they interview me, I'm going to tell them how I overcame adversity for my job application. The funny thing was, if you look at the date on this article, this was January of 2020 before we started the spring. That's exactly what she did 2 years later. This article was written in the paper before the school year started. There was a second half to this where she kind of goes through briefly some of the things that we've discussed tonight as far as learning something new, of being able to work through it, coming out the other side, hopefully being a bit better for it. So that's all. That's the story. That's the progression. That's the things that she had to do. Trust on both sides. So if there's anybody here, that has any questions or would like something to be explained a little bit further, just unmute yourself, unvideo yourself, and go for it.
Hey, So I think I kind of want to go into a little bit of a deeper look at that lead arm when you were doing the isolation stuff, because I know you and I talked about it after the last one, and we were talking about how she was crushing balls up, like absolutely crushing balls up. So, and I know that when some people get into doing that drill, it can be a little bit of a nightmare. The lead arm starts to plunge and it gets straight real quick. So like, I kind of want to get into a deeper look at that one.
All right. So what's your question? What do you want to see or explain?
Just how you can maintain the relationship when the ball gets up, and how you can get the lead arm going forward instead of it going out and around.
Celeste, you want to answer that first?
Yeah, the up pitch was the hardest pitch for me, I think, to recognize. I had a really hard time with recognizing that I can hit the up pitch. The slapper, I was like, oh, everything down, only hit down. It really just took a lot, and I mean a lot of every day, at least 20 minutes, doing high tee. He actually made everybody do high tee before it was in our warm up. Actually, we did it on 2 knees, and we isolated ourselves, and we would just literally turn our arms up and go to the ball. Like, it would be high tee would probably be to chest, neck, and we would just sit there 10 in a row until I felt perfect, and I wouldn't stop until I felt perfect 10 in a row. And that was a warm up, so it was like an everyday thing. No matter what we did, we had to do it. Some of us did it from our knees. After I got off my knees and I felt good on my knees, I would put the tee on a bucket and I would do it from one move, so my feet would be already in launch, my legs would be ready to go, and all I would move is from here. Like, my bat would be on my shoulder, and then I'd tip forward, and then I'd just go to the ball. And I had to do that over and over and over again because, like I said, the up pitch was something that was really hard for me to do, considering I turned a straight arm as well.
So I'll go back to the video and show you on the one on the ball that's high. So one of the bigger things that you want to be able to have happen is a lot of people, when the middle starts to go, they want the lead, because they're holding the bat with one hand, the lead arm wants to disconnect and just go straight towards the ball. That's the issue that you're going to have whenever you do isolation type work. So my suggestion would be to start them on the bucket, like sit it on the bucket to where it's really easy. You kind of take that out of it. But then also stand next to the player and see if you can get that to happen. If I can get the middle to go and the lead arm is just going to work and get set forward, and it's not going to be disconnect, like I'm not going to push it forward, then in turn, they can continue to turn the body and turn the barrel at the same time. So as you can see, like, the body keeps turning, and in turn, the barrel turns, but you see how the hand stays up. Their hand stays up by her left shoulder. It stays up there the whole time. So everything stays in line. So if you don't quite understand it, you would think that the arm is pushing forward at this point. But at contact, you can clearly see that the arm did not push forward, because if I back it up, everything is still in the same exact spot. So I would
that's the visual I'm looking for.
Right. So I would really stand next to a kid and understand, like, when the middle goes, the front arm gets set. Front arm gets set, even to this point. Set forward. It gets set forward. So now my front arm's in what you understand is the frontal plane. So when it's in the front, it's naturally just going to keep working that way as long as I turn my body, versus kind of getting to this point right here and then just pulling my arm forward and my body never continue to rotate. So I should be at the same spot. If I had 2 hands on the bat, I would be at this same spot. If they're not at this spot and their chest is like still facing towards the plate, or like maybe turn just a hair and they just pull with their arm, they won't look like they're in this position that she's in right here. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else? Or do you have another one?
Yeah, I got another one. I was waiting to see if anybody else had any other ones.
Okay.
Question about, because I noticed it also once we started really getting into the crossover and the Babe Ruth drill. And I really noticed it today when you were going through like a lot of her earlier stuff to the newer stuff and her leg lift progression. So like talk about the relationship between like once you start getting real comfortable with the crossover drill, the Babe Ruth drill, and like does that really like proceed to some athletes that can really figure that out, really like starting to change up their leg lift a little bit?
So let's go ahead.
Well, so my leg lift, I knew I was a little more mobile. Actually one of the first drills I put my foot on a bucket.
Yes.
Um,
You had to
my-
learn how to stay behind your leg,
yeah,
actually.
that was actually the first thing that I did. And then I started to use my leg as almost like a timing mechanism. Like I would force it up and then stomp it down and then swing. I give lessons and a lot of my kids do that too when I change their swing. It really just took me once I figured out how my body works. We have lab stuff, and Salters gives us a lot of data in the lab, and we have a weight room coach who works with Salters, and we do feel exercises, which is all on his Twitter and stuff. That's actually how I figured out how flexible I was, what I can do, what I can't do. There's actually my swing for a low outside pitch, my pelvic bend is like this, which I told him, I was like, "What's wrong with me?" And he's like, "You just have a little more mobility." But I just really had to learn myself. I really didn't think about the leg kick. Kind of just happened. The only time I thought about it was like my sophomore year when I put my front foot on a bucket, which was a little weird for me. But after that, it kind of just happened. And like I said, I started like lifting it up and then stomping it down. And once I figured out my body and learned how my body works and how flexible I am, how not flexible I am, then it just kind of went with everything else.
So she actually we had to put her up on a lead leg on a bucket because she was so used when she was slapping, when you slap and your bear comes and your chest comes and you take off running. So when she would swing and her chest would just travel forward all the time. So any type of space that she would create behind it just did going. So, she'd like go forward and try to go back real fast, like make space, and it was a disaster. So she had to put her leg on a bucket to learn how to stay behind her leg. And I tell people most of the time, the leg lift progression usually comes as the upper body figures out how to balance that move up. So if they don't understand how the upper body balances the move up, it'll be kind of erratic. Once they go ahead.
Hip hinge, that was something that we did the rope on the door. That was something that really made me like realize that my leg wasn't for timing. It was just naturally come up from my back hip.
Yeah. So we did a thing called the sling, which if you DM me, I can send you a video or a picture of that later on. But so once she figured out how her upper body was supposed to balance the move up, then the leg lift started to get more natural. And it started to get more consistent. I mean, there are some times now it'll get a little out of control, and it's because she'll get up too soon. So it'll like she'll get up too soon, and like she'll know she gets up too soon. And so like to buy a little bit of time, like it maybe like kind of comes up kind of weird, and then but it ends up working itself out because it's not like she's not timing because of the leg lift. Like the leg is coming up because something else is moving her, and so it ends up balancing itself out. You just kind of got to know what you're looking for a little bit, and a kid has to know what they're using the time. And once they do that, then it'll start to get to the point where that move will start to balance itself out.
Perfect. Exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? All right, that is the story. Thank you guys for coming on. I hope you got something out of this. I really wanted her story to be told. I think it's a really good one as far as understanding perseverance. understanding how to work through some things, and then coming out on the other end and being better for it. Really excited that she's coming back to play one more year, not necessarily just from production on the field, but leadership qualities and stuff off the field as far as what we're trying to build here. And so really excited and really thankful that she's chosen to spend another year here with us at UTSA. So you guys take care, stay safe out there, and take it easy.
Thank you. Noah.